Stories Philippines Podcast.
A stillness holds the air in this space, one of shadows and half-truths. The stories we share today delve into places of deep-seated fear and cultural darkness, touching on moments of profound terror and psychological distress. We proceed with the solemn understanding that these accounts, whether historical or intensely personal, carry a weight that may be too heavy for some. Listener discretion is more than advised. It is essential. It begins with a whisper of wind, not through leaves, but across dry, cracked earth. A traveler finds himself walking a familiar path, the moon a silver coin above him, yet the trees seem to shift. The landmarks blur. A vague, unsettling certainty takes root. He has passed that exact same oddly shaped stone, that same patch of tangled vines 3 times now. He stops, confused, a cold knot forming in his stomach. He looks up. The moon is full, and in its pale, indifferent glow, a figure stands motionless beneath an ancient mango tree. It is impossibly tall, a massive shadow that resolves itself not into a man, but into the unholy silhouette of a creature with the body of a man and the heavy, stark head of a horse. It does not move. It merely watches. And in that moment of silent, paralyzing observation, the traveler understands he is not lost because of his poor sense of direction. He is lost because he has been tricked. He has been entered into a game of deception by a being designed to confuse the soul and scramble the mind. This is the legend of the Tikbalang. I am Jessica, and you are listening to Stories Philippines Podcast. We journey into the heart of Filipino folklore and history, where the lines between the mythical beast and the political metaphor become dangerously thin. We explore the creature of nightmare that, through its very nature, may hold a mirror to the darkest aspects of the nation's past and present. The Tikbalang, the horse demon, is not simply a creature that leads you in circles in the forest. It is an allegory for a life lived perpetually confused, perpetually tricked, and perpetually walking the same path to nowhere. Submit your stories to our email, stories.phpodcast@gmail.com, and let your whispers join our collected narratives of the strange and the unsettling. The anatomy of deception. The Tikbalang is one of the most recognized and enduring figures in the vast tapestry of Philippine mythology, second only, perhaps, to the vampiric Manananggal. Its traditional description is chillingly specific: a half-man, half-horse creature. It stands toweringly tall, often described as being the height of a grown banana tree, its body human-like but often hairy and rugged, culminating in the striking, fearsome head of a horse. Sometimes its feet are described as the hooves of a horse or a goat, lending it an unnatural gait and a loud, clattering footfall. The creature is often linked to the spirit realm, residing in the canopies of ancient, enormous trees, particularly the balete, the mango, or the sampalak, trees that loom like sentinels over the landscape, their twisted branches seeming to hold secrets. The Tikbalang's most infamous power is its mastery of illusion and deception, particularly the act of getting a person lost. It is the spirit of disorientation. Accounts from places like the provinces of Quezon and Pangasinan, where the forests are thick and the old trees massive, describe a chilling phenomenon. Travelers walking along a known trail suddenly find themselves in a labyrinth. The path they are certain they are on leads repeatedly back to their starting point, or in endless, frustrating circles. The air thickens, the sounds of the world mute, and a sense of profound fear and isolation takes over. This is the Tikbalong's work, a mental spell of misdirection. Young Gabo, a teenager vacationing with his grandparents, described this oppressive stillness. Walking home late one moonlit night with his uncle, past a dark stretch near a mango tree, the world fell silent. The usual night chorus of crickets and wind was replaced by a heavy, almost suffocating quiet. Then, a massive shadow appeared beneath the tree. It was motionless, far taller than anything natural, and undeniably equine from the neck up. The feeling, Gabo recounted, was one of intense, focused scrutiny, as if the creature was weighing their souls. His uncle, recognizing the danger, whispered two critical instructions: do not run and stay silent. The Tikbalang in these moments is testing its prey. Its heavy footsteps, described by Gabo and echoed in other accounts as a metallic, scuffing sound on the earth, are part of the intimidation. It wants the traveler to panic, to break and run, because a panicked mind is easily misled. The only known counterspell to this particular illusion is a ritual act of humility and submission to the creature's power. The traveler must turn his shirt or clothing completely inside out. This act, whether a symbolic reversal of the deception or a gesture of breaking the spell's hold on the physical self, is believed to snap the illusion and reveal the true path. It is a moment of surrender to the irrational to regain rational control. In the southern island of Samar, known for its dense ancient forests and a vibrant folklore of elemental beings, the Tikbalang often appears near isolated schools or natural landmarks. Gab, a college student from a remote area, shared the chilling account of her father, a driver quarantined in an elementary school during the pandemic. Alone in a classroom near the deep forest, her father was jolted from half-sleep by an earthy, foul odor. This scent, often associated with the elemental world, was the prelude. Opening his eyes, he came face to face with a massive, dark, horse-headed figure, a creature with a heavily muscled, hairy human arm and hand. The sudden confrontation, the lock of eyes, and the sheer stench of the unnatural caused the creature to vanish in the space of a blink, leaving only the memory of the profound terror. Later, her father saw large, mud-caked hoof prints on a clean second-story staircase, where only human feet should have trod, the definitive, undeniable sign of the elemental horse demon's presence. Historical context and political metaphor. To truly understand the depth of the Tikbalang's place in the Filipino psyche, one must look beyond the mere scare story and into the dark history of the islands. The Spanish colonial era, which lasted over 3 centuries, was a time of forced conversion, cultural eradication, and systemic oppression. Spanish friars, arriving in the 16th century, found a rich animist spirituality among the natives, a belief system populated by a vast pantheon of nature spirits, elemental beings, and gods. The Tikbalang, originally known by various names across different indigenous groups, was often a powerful figure, sometimes a benevolent guardian of the forest, sometimes a prankster, and sometimes a terrifying master of the wilderness. To the Spanish, these spirits were a direct threat to the introduction of Christianity. As part of a widespread effort to demonize native belief systems, many traditional spirits were purposefully equated with the demons of Christian theology. The Tikbalang's half-human, half-beast form, its immense strength, and its preternatural intelligence made it a perfect fit for a Christian devil. A satanic inversion of the centaur, a creature of carnal desire and brute deception. This historical act of renaming and demonization stripped the creature of its complex, often protective, native context and cemented its identity as a purely malicious entity. It became a symbol of the confusion and misdirection inherent in a conquered culture, where ancestral wisdom was now labeled sin and the familiar world was made strange. The Tikbalang, therefore, is not only a forest monster, it is a manifestation of collective cultural trauma and disorientation. This notion of being led in circles has, for decades, resonated deeply with the national experience, particularly in times of political turmoil. The years leading up to the mid-2005 period, when many of these stories were gathered and shared, were steeped in profound political deception. The nation was reeling from corruption scandals, allegations of election fraud, and a sense of institutional breakdown. The impeachment process, a complex legal maze, often felt like a perpetual circle, with the public constantly being misled, turned around, and returned to the same starting point of confusion and distrust. The political landscape was, in essence, a giant Tikbalang spell. The people, like the lost traveler, were being told to follow a known path, only to find themselves walking back to the same spot, year after year. The constant lies, the shifting loyalties, and the manipulation of truth. These were the whispers of the horse demon, confusing the public until they were forced to question their own senses and their own reality. The creature's primary power is to make you doubt your mind. The political crisis was doing the same to the collective consciousness. The advice to the lost traveler, turn your clothes inside out, is also a potent and enduring political metaphor. It represents a necessary, drastic, and unconventional act of reversal that cuts through complacency. When the normal world fails, when the familiar path becomes deceptive or treacherous, you must sometimes do the opposite of what feels rational or routine. You must symbolically invert the established order to break the spell of the Tikbalang. Whether you find yourself wandering in a literal dark forest or navigating a dark era of governance. This ritual of inversion forces a reassessment of assumptions, disrupts automated patterns of behavior, and creates the psychological space for new directions to emerge. Find show notes, further reading, and support options in the description of this episode. The desires of the demon. Beyond misdirection, the Tikbalang also possesses a deeply unsettling desire for human interaction, often taking the form of attraction or possession. Accounts from Quezon and Bulacan speak of the Tikbalang's infatuation, usually with beautiful women or, in more frightening accounts, with innocent, often quiet and fair-skinned children. This is the demon as a suitor, a possessive, jealous, and physically powerful entity seeking to take its object of affection into its own spectral world. The account from Chibbi, whose father was a security guard in a compound near the sea, vividly describes this attraction. After a beautiful neighbor named Ate Marie dyed her hair a bright, eye-catching red, the phenomena began. Every morning, the shared backyard was scarred with the telltale hoofprints of a large horse, the small plywood gate repeatedly broken down. Chibbi's father heard the distinct, metallic tak-tak of the creature running back and forth behind their house in the pre-dawn hours, stopping only when he moved toward the window, as if the spirit could sense his presence and smell his intention. The divination performed by the local expert, or Magtatawas, revealed the cause. A Tikbalang living in the massive, ancient mango tree across the street had been drawn to Ate Marie by the striking color of her hair. The creature was seeking her out, its visits becoming more aggressive as it tried to cross into their space. The solution was simple yet profound. Ate Marie had to dye her hair back to a natural, darker color, thereby removing the attraction and breaking the creature's focus. The vanity of a momentary change was enough to draw the attention of a demon, proving the old belief that one must not draw undue attention to oneself in the world of the elemental. In a more complex and disturbing narrative, Jella Smith shared her lifelong trauma of nocturnal encounters, initially experiencing a sense of being watched, then the cold, directional caress of an invisible force. She often awoke in the small hours feeling as though she had endured a physical ordeal, her body sore as if from an intense, non-consensual act. Her grandmother warned her that a Tikbalang had become infatuated with her, often manifesting as doppelgangers of her family members to gain access. The creature, in this context, is not just a prankster but a predator, its desire so potent that it can seemingly traverse the physical and spectral realms to pursue its target. Only Jella, finding a true human connection, seemed to repel the entity, a chilling testament to the power of human affection against the spectral loneliness of the demon. The young boy, Tan, from Bulacan, was traumatized after seeing a shadowy figure with a horse's tail exit his room one evening. His sister, Cha, soon began to experience the same intense scrutiny, eventually waking up to see the crimson-eyed shadow of the horse demon standing over her. The albulario confirmed the possession was driven by the creature's desire for Cha. The prescribed counter-magic was an ancient botanical one, the burning of specific incense at the precise hour when light and darkness struggled for supremacy, signaling the creature's active time. The story concludes with the Tikbalang being successfully repelled by this specific counter-ritual. These accounts paint the Tikbalang not just as a prankster, but as a being of potent, dark desire, one that seeks ownership and control. The creature's actions, the pursuit, the deception, the unsettling physical presence, are all extensions of this desire to pull its chosen human into its own shadowy domain. The intersection of trauma and belief. The recurrent theme of the Tikbalang's influence on children and the mentally vulnerable highlights a deep cultural understanding of shared trauma. The stories of young people being Tikbalanged, a term used by the folk healer to describe the possession or haunting, as in the case of Samsi's younger brother in 2002, are particularly harrowing. Samsi, who grew up afraid to even close a door at night, watched as her younger brother began to suffer terrifying nocturnal episodes. He would wake up screaming, his body convulsing, his eyes rolling back in his head, pointing to unseen things. After several nights of this inexplicable terror, the child finally screamed one word that explained everything: Tikbalang. The local faith healer confirmed the diagnosis. The spirit had been living in a massive mango tree near their home, and when the tree was cut down, it moved to a nearby santol tree whose branches touched the family's roof. The spirit had taken a liking to the young boy and intended to take him. This narrative of a spirit-moving house when its ancient dwelling is destroyed speaks to the loss of natural habitat and the consequences of modernization encroaching on the elemental world. When the old ways, symbolized by the ancient trees, are torn down, the spirits are displaced, and they look for new homes, sometimes in the most vulnerable members of the human community. The prescribed cure, placing a cross-shaped mound of salt in the center of the table and attending church, blends animist counter-magic with Christian ritual, a common hybrid approach in Filipino folk healing. The psychological impact of these encounters cannot be overstated. When a child, or even an adult, is made to doubt their own sanity, to question the reality of what they are seeing and feeling, the effect is profound collective trauma. The Tikbalang's power is, at its core, psychological warfare. The fear it instills, the sense of being perpetually lost or pursued, resonates with the universal fear of losing one's mind, of being deceived by one's own senses. The stories provide a cultural framework for inexplicable events and intense fear, placing the blame not on a mental illness or an unresolved trauma, but on an external, recognizable, and mythologically powerful entity. This allows the community to rally around the victim with shared rituals and a common enemy. Access exclusive content including bonus episodes and deep dive lore analysis on our Patreon page. The shadow of the horse in the global landscape. The Tikbalang, though uniquely Filipino, is not an isolated phenomenon in the world of myth. Its nature as a deceptive, chimeric horseman connects it to a long lineage of creatures across global cultures, demonstrating a shared human anxiety about the boundary between man and beast, reality and illusion. In ancient Greek mythology, the centaur was a creature of immense strength, often depicted as wild, uncontrolled, and symbolizing the baser instincts of man. The Tikbalang shares this brutal, untamed quality. In European folklore, particularly in tales from the British Isles, there are accounts of the puka, a creature that can take the form of a black horse or goat. The puka, like the Tikbalang, is a spirit of the wilderness known for its trickery, often leading travelers astray into bogs or over cliffs. Even in Asian mythologies, the fusion of the equine and the human is used to signify power and danger. These parallels suggest a universal archetype, the deceptive spirit of the wild, whose mastery of the forest and the night allows it to prey on human confusion. The Tikbalang is the localized, tropical, and historically charged version of this universal fear. The most potent connection, however, remains the creature's association with political and psychological disorientation. The experience of Majesty, a high school student living next to a forested area, encapsulates this terrifying psychological play. In the pre-dawn darkness, as she fetched water from a neighbor's well, she heard a sharp, inexplicable whistling, a common signal of elemental presence. She looked towards the banana grove and saw an unmoving, horse-like figure, its eyes burning red. The creature vanished only when a neighbor's light and voice broke the spell. Her reaction, to run and not speak of it, is the classic response to an elemental encounter. The moment of truth is too overwhelming to process into reality. But it is the narrative of the political deception, the national experience of perpetually being made to feel lost and tricked, that truly elevates the Tikbalang from a simple monster to a powerful cultural mirror. The maze the Tikbalang creates is not made of trees. It is a mental labyrinth of lies and false promises. Follow us on social media for daily folklore facts that continue the conversation about the spirits among us. Final Whispers. The stories of the Tikbalang leave us in a chilling space, a liminal zone between the tangible and the terrifying. They speak not only of a monster in the dark, but of the deep human vulnerability to deception, whether from a spirit of the ancient woods or the all-too-human players in the game of power. The horse demon is a master illusionist, making the familiar strange and the simple path impossible. We are left to wonder, is the Tikbalang simply a story to explain the phenomenon of getting lost? Or is it a creature of a deeper reality, drawn to the fear and confusion that plague a society? Are the circles we walk in the dark forests merely accidents of nature? Or are they the deliberate, heavy footsteps of a towering, red-eyed entity that laughs at our bewildered souls? And if the remedy to the spell is a simple, absurd act of reversal, turning our clothes inside out, what is the simple, absurd, yet profound act of reversal needed to break the cycle of confusion and deception that grips the national life? The fear of the Tikbalang is, perhaps, the fear of losing our way, not just in the dark, but in the relentless, twisting light of a world intent on confusing us. Is there a greater terror than the feeling of walking in circles, knowing you are intentionally being led astray? What if the monster is not what frightens you, but the monster is what you become when you are eternally lost? Do not forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share this podcast. Support the podcast financially in ways you can find in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to Stories Philippines podcast.